Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to Adams Park. We are bathed in glorious sunshine, and we are counting down, of course, to the League One playoffs, which will be taking place here in 2 weeks, the second leg, and even less time than that, that will be up at the Highbury Stadium for this game against Fleetwood. So thank you to everyone that's tuning in. This is, of course, a season ticket Q&A special, and so we have plenty to get through. And with no further ado, I'm going to call into the room our chairman over in the States, Rob Couhig. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm a little jealous hearing about that weather. We are doing what we do best in South Louisiana, having a thunderstorm, so you may hear it in the background. And if it gets particularly anxious, you'll see a dog running through here because he hates thunder. So, yes, doing well. And look, Matt, before we begin, let me just say this. I want to thank all the fans who have already stepped up to the plate. A couple of things, and I'm sure you'll go through the statistics. But in my looking at it, over a third of the tickets, or close to a third of the tickets that we have made available on a season ticket basis have already gone. Correct me if I'm wrong, that's the fastest, at least in my memory, although my memory only goes back 9 months. But from what I've learned, the fastest that season tickets have sold in a long, long time. And they come in all demographics, and people have been enthused. The other thing, and I would be absolutely remiss if I did not start with this, close to 90% of people have waived their right to a refund. We understand some people will want to use their potential refund on the season tickets, and we're going to accommodate that. We have not mentioned this before, but we intend, obviously, to show our appreciation in a material way for those who waive their refunds, and we'll have more about that. I'm trying not to put an inducement out there, as it were, to waive the refund. We think contributing to the club and to Gareth's player budget is enough. The third thing, there has been some justifiable criticism, perhaps, that I did not communicate enough with the trust board, fans about what was coming. I'll take that criticism. I've spoken to the two trust board members who are also members of the football club. I've explained to them that if I had it to do over again, I probably would have been more direct about what was coming. But as you know, we're in unusual times. We should have done this last March. We did not. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since then, and we needed to get going. And once we saw the numbers from David Cook as to what could properly be allowed in the stadium under a social distancing protocol of 25%, saw how it correlated to our season tickets, I made the decision to go forward on a price basis that we have been looking at since last March. So on the communications, I'll take that. Let me also add one other thing. This is a fantastic club, but it cannot depend on some new person coming in every year and lending the club money. When it's by coincidence, this was the week a year ago that I got involved by helping to bail the club out. It was literally on the verge of not being able to pay its bills. It had a substantial debt. I stepped in and did it. You can't operate any business, even a football club, running a $600,000 to £700,000 debt. So our goal has been, and it's been stated all along, financial sustainability. That's what we're doing. And that's why, as you recall, I asked the staff way back when, let's look at our season ticket prices. Let's look at where we stack up in the league, and let's make them rational for our fans. The other thing is, and this was a philosophical decision I made, I know a lot of clubs change the price if you go up or down based on the league. Early days, I decided we would not do that. We're going to be in the championship next year. I believe it in everything in my body. But we're not going to raise our prices for season ticket holders because we're going to be delivering to our fans a product that they're going to like regardless of the league that we're in. And I'm also going to make sure that Gareth can afford the players we need. So I'm sorry, you had some preliminary remarks, and typical of me, I jumped in. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Well, we've had some questions coming by email. There's more coming in the comments. Our policy with questions is always the same. We'll try and get through every question that we can without being here all night. If your question isn't asked, it's because either we feel that it's already been covered in a previous question or an answer from Rob, or that perhaps it isn't relevant to the discussion of season tickets. So if you want to know how long the grass
is, we'll do this. We'll come back and we'll answer your question at some point. We don't dodge questions. So go ahead.
Absolutely. So yeah, as Rob touched on, we did a little report at 3 p.m. We're delighted to have sold 937 season tickets so far. We had a look back. It took us 37 days to reach the same figure last year. Obviously, we've achieved that now in 3 days this year. We know the circumstances are different, but it's been a phenomenal response and very busy, certainly for the guys in the ticket office here who've barely put the phone down or had a chance to stop and take a sip of water in that time. So fantastic response so far. And as Rob touched upon, of everyone that's responded so far, a huge number of people waiving their refund and recognising how their money can support the club. So as I say, we're going to take some questions. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the comments as best I can. So I'm also going to go to some of these that we've had in by email. And again, if you feel you've got a question that isn't covered in these questions, then do put it forward. First one we received was from John Barnes, who I know is a long-time fan. In fact, for the last 50 years, he says. There's 2 questions really, Rob, to this.
I'm sorry, can you all hear the thunder in the background? Go ahead.
I've got creaking doors here, so we've got noise coming at both sides of the pond. There are 2 questions. One, is this the right way and the right time to be increasing prices and attempting to increase attendances at Adams Park? And also there's a second question about the repayment scheme and whether there can be more than 3 installments, because our fans will remember that in previous years that we've used a third-party provider who has charged an admin fee of 8% and enabled them to spread that cost over 12 months. So 2 questions really about the timing of the price increase, with a view to increasing attendances as well, but also the payment plan that John has asked.
Fair questions, both. Let's talk about the right timing. In the history of man, there's never a good time to raise prices if you're the person paying for the raise. So could it have been better? Yes, but we needed to put it in place before this season, because if we didn't, when we're doing our budget, when we're trying to get our protocols approved for what we can spend on the players, it's going to look like we're going to run another deficit. I am committed to not doing a deficit next year. The good news is, because of some of the changes that we had made in the prior time, but for the COVID, we probably would have only lost, and only in soccer can you brag about only losing, 300,000 pounds for the past season. Instead, what happened? We lost 3 of our 4 biggest paydays of the year when we lost our games in April. The other one probably would have been in the top 10. So in terms of revenue, we literally lost almost £1 million. We have scraped together by using the furlough, although we've paid all of our employees 100% by using the furlough. Matt and the staff, we've cut down to 8 people. And I dare say that there are very few clubs, if any, operating as efficiently as we are on that. But nonetheless, the money is necessary. I am a believer that finances are like gravity. There is no magic to it. You either have enough revenue to meet expenses or you don't. And so, could Missy and I dig into our pocket and come up with some more? Sure, that's a possibility, but that's not the right answer for this club. Never will be. It just continues the problem. So I wish we could have done it when England was at full employment, when everybody had just gotten a bonus from their boss. But I dare say that even then, some people would object to the prices. So sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and take your chances. And here's the thing. We, I think, demonstrated that we're going to put on a better product off the pitch. We're already working, and Matt, you know this, on a fiber system for our stadium that will be second to none. We're working on changing out all of the concessions so that the food product's better, the beverages are better. We're expanding the Chairboy Village. The Frank Adams stand will literally, there's no better place, I don't think, to watch football than to watch our team and then be able to look out at that vista. That's a $1 million view. And then behind that stand, we're putting in huge improvements thanks to Rebellion in terms of facilitating the beer, the music, and the like. So no great time to do it, but unfortunately it had to be done.
The second question from John was about the payment plans and the installments.
Yeah, look, we thought we were doing people a favor by us carrying the debt for 3 months and not having people pay an 8%. And the way I looked at it, and perhaps I was wrong, is you could, in effect, take those payments, put them on your credit card if you have one, and you can extend it out for a year that way at your own interest rate. I hate the idea of giving somebody 8% of your money when maybe we can do it. So we decided we would bear the burden. We will look at these things as we go down the road, but we felt that was the best we could do at this time.
I think also last year there were 40 supporters who used that scheme. I think there was some quite strict implications from those, and credit ratings were looked at by those payment providers. Quite a lot of people who weren't able to secure the funding through that company came to the club and said, can the club provide a payment plan for us, because I haven't been able to secure it through this company. So I think that was in the thinking as well. Moving on to a question from Alistair, was about this priority scheme whereby the club has said that the first people to buy the season tickets will effectively be the first through the door if a limited capacity is enabled. Now that obviously has led to a rush on Friday, as we've seen, and fantastic numbers of 937 that have bought. Some fans didn't get that email, so have been behind in the communication, and quite rightly now feel that they may have missed a chance, because if only 500 people can come in, they never really stood a chance of being on that priority list. Is this something that the club are going to be able to address to make sure?
Yeah, two things, and Missy brought it to my attention because, as you know, we correspond with virtually anybody who writes to us. And somebody had sent to her a note and said, hey, I didn't get my renewal. She said, can you look in your junk mail? And the guy wrote it back and said, oh, yeah, there it is. So recommendation number one is look at all of the places where your mail goes, not just your inbox, but your junk mail, or clutter box, whatever you may have, to sort of sort out those things. Second thing, get in your, let the team know you didn't get it. When we transfer it over to the new system, a lot of email addresses were lost or didn't make the transfer, or we never had. So we're trying to get that in. The third, and I guess this goes to the heart of the question, I am of a belief that if we can get everybody sorted out over the next week, anybody who gets in within that week is more than likely going to be able to make it. The tension will come on some of the away games, obviously, and we'll do it. But if I could leave you with this, we're going to be fair. We're going to bend over backwards trying to do it. We're not so ironclad that we're going to bust anybody that doesn't, just because they got in right after Matt or right before Matt. That doesn't make a difference, other than you got to have some arbitrary rules in an arbitrary situation. I can't force the government, if they say you can only have 1,000 people in, to let us have 1,001. Just can't do it. It's sort of like the playoff situation. I could be the most popular guy in the history of Wickham football if I could somehow create playoff tickets for the 1,000 people who have asked me.
I think also the timing's quite pertinent. The government are expected this week to announce a reduction on the social distancing from 2 meters to 1 meter. In theory, that could obviously double the number of fans in the stadium. And there have been suggestions as well about whether a ballot scheme would be more fair than the priority system. And trust me, the ticket office guys, in the very short opportunities they get when the phone isn't ringing, we are looking at all of these things and trying to make sure the fairest policy is implemented. Obviously, it's a guessing game at the moment in terms of how many fans will be allowed back and when. But trust me, the best interests of the wider fan base are certainly at heart here.
And let me stop you on two things, because you raised two pertinent points. The number of fans David Cook, who's a member of the board of the trust, was a trust board member and is now a football club member, board member, is also our safety officer. I look to him for advice and direction on how many fans we can allow in. And so that's how we came up with the original number. We will be working with him if we can get a different. So if you know David, he is meticulous about safety and about rules. And so he has already sort of game planned out what could happen with different variations. And so I felt comfortable with this number. The other thing is, you talk about the guys. I would be remiss if I did not stop and thank our staff. This staff created this plan at my request and direction, and they have done a magnificent job. Did we get everything exactly right? No, but here's the thing. Each of them is listening all the time. None of them hesitate to pick up the phone and say, hey, Rob, what about this? And we will continue to do that.
There's two questions that have been quite popular in the comments. One is relating to carers' season tickets, one also to Woodlands Lounge. Now, I know that the ticket office have had some direct calls about carers' tickets today. It's something that's been continually looked at. There's guidance from an organisation called Level Playing Field in relation to access for disabled fans. And I think in recent years, having worked here, the club's policy with carers and disabled fans hasn't been altogether watertight. And the club are looking to rectify that and obviously make it as suitable and appropriate as it should be. So to a couple of people that have been asking about carers tickets, I know Ben on the call today has been talking to a couple of people about that. Do contact us directly. We need to know obviously who you are, and it would be very handy for us to deal with you on a kind of case-by-case basis. The Woodlands Lounge as well isn't currently available for sale. So those asking about seats outside, I think, again, you can speak to Neil directly. Neil Peters, the Chief Commercial Officer. I think the advice here is to buy your seat in the Frank Adams stand, which obviously has direct access down to the Woodlands Lounge. And then when the Woodlands Lounge is available for sale, you'll be able to purchase your pass separately to your season ticket. The same goes for car parking. There's been a couple of questions about car parking. I know in previous years they've been sold with your season ticket. They will be a separate entity. They're not yet available for sale. And part of the reason for that is the expansion of the Chairboys Village. We need to get our numbers right of how many passes we can sell. So three issues there really. Carers, we ask you to contact the ticket office and we'll deal up on a case-by-case basis. Woodlands Lounge, please purchase your season tickets in kind of the regular seats for now, and contact Neil if you'd like more info. And parking, just hold off for now. Anything to add on those, Rob, or I can move on?
No,
if you like?
The only thing I would add is that, look, we're a pretty flexible group, and if you get what you determine is not what you wanted or what you thought you wanted, we're going to refund your money. It's pretty simple. We're all trying in a very difficult situation under a new sort of orthodoxy of we can't afford to lose money forever, and so. When you talk about the carers, we've looked at it. We're going to be very individualized on the carers tickets. We're going to make sure that somebody who physically needs a carer will be provided and taken care of. But we're also going to make sure that it is the carer, it is that person who needs the care who's our primary objective. The Woodlands is part of an ongoing discussion that we're having about how we best accommodate our fans. Similarly with the parking, as you point out, as we expand the Chairboys Village, as we expand the opportunities for our visitors to participate, those tickets, those parking spots will become more precious, and we'll have to deal with it at that time.
A question from Rob Smith, which has been echoed by a few fans. It was quite a long email, so I'm going to try and paraphrase as best I can. One being the change in price for junior and child tickets. And as we know, in the past couple of years, under 12s have gone in free. Junior tickets have been extremely low. And a lot of fans view that as the way to get the next generation of fans through the door by offering them free or very low price tickets. And there has been an increase on that. Is there a risk that will be to the detriment of the club's plan to introduce young fans to Adams Park, to give them the bug and the buzz of live football here at Wycombe Wanderers in order that they can grow up like I did when I was 5-6 years old and still coming age 32? Is there a risk that we're pricing those families out from bringing their young children along?
Yeah, there's a risk. I'd be lying if I told you there's not a risk, but I don't think it's a huge risk. Let me tell you the other half of it. The most precious seat in all of English football, in my estimation, is sitting in the upper stand at the Frank Adams stand. To give a child a free ticket there and have him show up occasionally because Johnny's birthday is the same day as we're playing Tranmere. That won't happen, incidentally, next year. But it is not fair to the person who could use that seat. What we're trying to do is create a family environment. And several, this free ticket business apparently only started 2, 3, 4 years ago. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that family section and turn it into a real family section. That's what it's for. We're charging something because I'm a great believer that free has no value. People who get something free treat it with all the respect free gets. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to hammer anybody on the price. We listened and we said, hey, for our family section, charging the $190 was too much, and we have the price. We've got another price for those younger kids. And so we're doing the best we can. But again, it's always got to be placed, and I know there are people at home gritting their teeth when I say this, but it's got to be put into the context of, are we generating enough money to pay for our expenses? And if the trust, and I told you that I've had several calls from members of the trust board who were disappointed. I didn't talk to them beforehand, who wanted to make sure that we revisited some of these children's prices. We looked at everything, frankly, as a result of their calls. But people, it's not a charity. And if you want to look at the difference between the old way and today, in the old way, they tried to accommodate as many of these disparate sort of criticisms as they could, understandably, but then at the end of the year, they were left with a huge hole. And then they had to run around and try and find some way to bail it out. My goal, Pete's goal, Missy's goal, is that at the end of the year, not that we're making money necessarily, but we're not digging ourselves out of a hole. So when Gareth and I sit and we have discussions about what we can do to improve the fan experience on and off the pitch, we know what we're dealing with, and we're not starting off with, oh my gosh, I got to write another check. This reminds me of one other thing. Some guy called me a mercenary on the internet, according to Missy, an American mercenary who knows nothing, or something like that. I would like for that guy to tell me how much money he thinks I've made so far on this deal. Zero. I'm out a ton of money, and I can't even go to the games. And I have to say this, I love all the comments. We try and respond to everybody. But when people just sort of dog you just for the heck of it because they're hidden behind a typewriter, I don't pay any attention to them. I will never listen to anybody's recommendation that starts off with a criticism of people personally. If you want to criticize what we're doing, fair game. If you criticize and you have an affirmative recommendation to analyze, really fair game, and we will analyze it to the T. If you start off with an ad hominem, we throw it away, we never listen to you again, and we don't care what you think. So, there you go.
There was a great question.
I got through the first 15 minutes without doing that.
There was a great question related to what we were talking about from Will Peak, and it was about schemes to entice young fans. And I think it's something that I'd like to touch on. We have the Sports and Education Trust, who historically have distributed tickets on a lot of the programs that they run across the community, not just for kids, but for fans who may be disadvantaged and underprivileged elsewhere. We also had struck up a partnership last year with the South Bucks Youth League, and just pre-COVID, we're actually in advanced discussions with another quite large youth league about almost an affiliate scheme to introduce and to benefit a youth league with hundreds and hundreds of players across 5 different counties, I think, to come to games. Now, these aren't free tickets. There's rewards back for those clubs if they can entice those players along. And you'll remember the last home game, as long ago as it was, against Tranmere, we attempted something in the Lord's stand, whereby for games with a relatively low away following, we could actually divide that stand in half and allocate seats there for schemes like this. We had a game against Burton just before Christmas. 500 free tickets were issued in the family stand through a community scheme. I think the take up was around about 20%. Those were seats that we couldn't resell to fans for a high profile game. We were 4-5 points clear at the top of the league, and almost had to stick up sold out signs in the family stand because 500 seats have been allocated for free, and not many of those turned up. What we want to do is make use of that Lord stand where we can, so that we know there's a mass there of 500 or 600 seats that we can run schemes for selected games to introduce new fans to it. So this isn't closing the door at all on schemes to bring in new fans from the community, and we are developing links with youth leagues. They can come along, they can present trophies to their best players on the pitch at half time. We have schemes and things where they can get reward back as well. So that was kind of.
Don't forget your pet project, Matt, of trying to find that enclosed area for those kids that you had started work on before we got shut down underneath the stands, so that they'll have protection from the elements. They'll have other things to do and really make it a full day experience. We will continue to work on that as well.
Yeah, that was very close to completion. And again, with many things with COVID, a sponsor fell through just because of the implications of COVID. So it's something we're going to revisit, and certainly try to accommodate all different demographics of fans in different ways. We have the Chairboys Village selling Rebellion beer. We have Monty's with the wine bar. We're very strongly focused on getting a kids area so that you can come down early. Almost leave your kids in a safe area, and even during the game they can continue to play if they don't think the football's up to scratch. So that there are plenty.
One other thing with SET that I think is important. SET has its own economic issues, and people need to be aware and sensitive to it. And the best we can, we will try and help. One of their issues, similar to the clubs, is that we bought a fantastic insurance policy that we believe should cover this club for its losses of revenue during the COVID period. Unfortunately, not unique to us, the insurer has denied that coverage. And so for the past 4 months, we've had no revenue to speak of, other than these ingenious schemes that the staff has come up with. But SET has had no revenue to speak of either. So think about them as you go down the road.
I'm going to carry on with the questions. Firstly, Mike Locke, if you're watching, I do believe your question was covered earlier. So as I say, if we don't ask a question, it's because we feel the topic has been covered. That was in relation to the emails that weren't received by some supporters. Tony Sutton has made a point, Rob, about fans who may be getting in on a ticket price category which is lower than what it should be. And this is to do with checks at the turnstiles, really, maybe a young adult might get through on a kid's ticket because if their ticket isn't being checked properly or scanned properly. Basically, the question is, what are the club going to do? Are they going to introduce photo ID? What are the club going to do to stop people abusing the system, ultimately?
Well, we are hopeful that the new electronic system will do a lot because it will be paged to you. Secondly, we're trying to figure out how to get more date information in terms of date of birth and the like. Ultimately, look, some people are going to cheat and steal, and we're not going to be policemen about it. But we're gonna try and put a little honor into the system, and so there'll be some things. Pete, as you know, is intense on this issue because he's the one who explained to me this club doesn't have to lose money. There's a lot of leaky faucets. And he's a leaky faucet sort of guy. I said, what do you mean? He says, if you go and stop the leaks, the 16-year-old or the 20-year-old passing for 16, it's little bits, but it adds up. And then we don't have to be as assiduous in terms of looking to increase our prices. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say we haven't increased our prices. What we've done is we've reduced the discount for the season ticket, which we've traditionally had.
I think also there had been a problem with the scanners that have been used at the turnstile not having the right connectivity to actually function, particularly during the busy times before kickoff. With the new fibre infrastructure this summer, that should be far more easy to use, and tickets can get scanned properly.
Yes.
question, I think, from Nigel Mayer. Again, it's coming back to the issue of prices and benchmarking. Nigel's made a point that other clubs in League One do charge cheaper for adults and children.
And many charge more. And in the Championship, all charge more.
I was just going to say, do you want to shed some light on the benchmarking processes that the club went through in order to arrive at these prices? Well, would you like me to?
Yeah, I think it'd be better. And again, if you could remind everybody, Matt, what I charged you and Pete and Neil with doing, and how you guys and Ben went about doing it. Josh Easterbrook, who was a big part of this.
Yeah, I think we started with Ben has joined us from UCFB Wembley. He's just undergone a master's with a view really at looking at data and analytics across many different areas of the company. One of those was this fascinating presentation that had a lot of demographic data, affluence of areas and social demographic backgrounds, but also having a look at what other clubs are charging for equivalent seats, I suppose, in their stadium and terraced areas as well. Looking at League One, Championship, the cheapest tickets, the most expensive tickets. And that really enabled us to have a look at where our tickets were. And generally speaking, we were probably lower than the club felt it was able to charge. When looking at ticket prices for this year, you actually kind of start with your match day tickets, and we started looking at our away tickets. And the reason for this is that the EFL has rules which states that you can't charge away fans more for an equivalent seat than you would charge your home fan, which is only fair. Okay, so they ask you to almost categorize your stadium based on the quality of seat. So for us, the top quality seat is the Frank Adams stand, undercover on along one side, and then the next category of seat is considered the Beach Dean stand, which again, along one side, undercover. The family stand and the away stand are almost considered equivalents. The family stand doesn't have full cover, as we know, and the away stand is behind one goal. So once you start looking at a fair price for away fans, and we like to consider that away fans have an unrestricted view, good legroom, the best acoustics, annoyingly, of probably any stand in League One. As we know, 200 away fans can sound like 2,000 sometimes. Their own private fan zone. So we kind of start by looking at, look, what is fair for an away fan here? And then we can almost judge our home fans accordingly. Also, as Rob alluded to in the statement on Friday night, the club has historically based its season tickets on the match day price times by 16, thereby giving season ticket holders 7 games free compared to buying individual match tickets. Now that's 30% of the season that you're kind of not paying for if you come to every game. And we appreciate, of course, that some people buy a season ticket knowing they can miss 2, 3, 4 games and still be quids in. Now that number has been reduced this year down to around about 4. So match day ticket prices won't see a huge increase, but the reason you see a season ticket increase is based on ultimately the reduction of free, in inverted commas, tickets for season ticket holders. So that's kind of like where the benchmarking started the process, looking at kind of what was an average in League One and Championship, what we could do in terms of match day ticket and their prices for away fans and then for home fans, and coming up with a season ticket equivalent. So that's kind of the overview, I suppose, of the journey that we came to. And obviously we're looking with interested eyes now at every club when they're releasing their season tickets for the new year. Although there's the uncertainty about when fans can come back into the stadium and how many games they might get to see, we've still sort of pitched ours on a full season in your seat, obviously with the opportunity that if you can't come because of stadium restrictions, then there will be pro rata rebates or iFollow passes or vouchers available to you. So hopefully that was as brief a summary without boring you all as we can get to, and shed some light on the situation.
I was going to say you did a pretty good job summarizing weeks of discussion. Good.
Cool. Well, we'll see if that made sense. So, Nigel, hopefully that answered your question. Martin Clift would like clarification, as I've just touched on, the refund situation. So, if a supporter were to buy a season ticket and then come the start of the new season, let's say that's September, but actually there is a limit of 1,000 or 1,500 capacity, and therefore we have to turn away some season ticket holders. What opportunities will there be for those season ticket holders so that they don't feel, I suppose, that they've paid for something they're not going to receive?
They're going to get the value of that ticket back. pretty simple. If that's what they want, or they'll have an option to get additional tickets to other games. We'll make it so that they feel as though they were treated fairly. The one criticism or suggested criticism I thought had some validity was there was a question that said maybe it would take up to 8 weeks to get it done. We're gonna see what we can do to make sure it's very quick, very efficient. Obviously, it's a lot easier if 4 people call up and want their money back than it is if 800 people call up in terms of the logistics of getting it done. But we will commit to making it speedy for those who want it.
Yeah, I think 8 weeks was a very conservative prediction based on the very small workforce that we have here at the club because of furlough leave. And hey, if 2,400 season ticket holders all wanted a refund, which is a very manual process, it probably would take 8 weeks to get through all of them and call them up and arrange the transfers because it's a manual process. Fortunately, with the numbers we're looking at, we don't see that process being anywhere near as long. So, Martin, I'm just trying to quickly scan through your question to see if that's answered everything, which I believe it has. One question, though, that Martin's asked and a couple of others is about in the event of the stadium reopening, but with social distancing in place, it's natural that people may not be able to sit in their chosen seat. The club's going to do the best it can, isn't it, Rob, to ultimately accommodate everyone safely, socially distanced, as close to their preferred seat as possible in their chosen stand, within the limitations of what we're permitted to do.
And that's why if there's a sense of urgency about buying your ticket, we have to come up with some methodology of preference. And so if we're limited, let's say it's a 25% limit, that's our 2,400 season tickets. We know we can't put them all in the Frank Adams stand. We can't put them all in the Beach Dean stand. We're going to have to scatter them, and we're going to work with people to get them as accommodated as best as possible to a seat that they can enjoy, that they can use. And it's going to be time consuming, but we're committed to it. And then if they don't like those seats, we will let them have their money back for those games.
Martin, I've just seen your final question. For fans who completed the refund form, and if they first said, I waive my refund, and then had a U-turn and said, actually, I would like my refund, we will take your most recent entry. So don't worry. If you originally said, look, I need to waive my refund, and now you want that refund, we'll just take your most recent entry. We can see the dates on the entries, so there's no concerns there. Having a look, parking, I think we've covered that one from Joe. Andy Foster asked a question about the refund email not coming through and the renewal email. I think, Andy, I know you've spoken to Neil already, so hopefully your questions have been dealt with. Ben Morby sent in a couple of questions. You said in your statement on Friday, Rob, that you don't agree with the policy of free season tickets. Ben wants to know, does that also apply to trust board members, staff and sponsors?
It certainly applies to members of the board, trust board members, members of the trust. Sponsors pay for their tickets as part of their sponsorship package. Staff, we do not require the staff to buy season tickets because most of them are working at the game. And so to me, it's they don't get dedicated seats the way a season ticket holder would anyway. So if there are seats available and we can help somebody on the staff who's working long hours, we do it. But we only have 8 members of the staff. So.
Yeah. So just to clarify, all directors and trust directors pay for their season tickets. As Rob said, sponsors' season tickets are tied up in the contracts that they buy when they're buying a bigger package, and staff as well. We work at the games, but we don't get season tickets to distribute to friends, etc. We talked about the extended price plan. I'm not sure if we got to a final answer. I'm going back to John's original question, because I know Ben has raised this topic a couple of times about extending the payment plan over a few different
Right now, it's a 3-month plan. We are looking at some options for those people. I think you mentioned last year there were, 40 people, Matt, who needed a truly extended plan. We're going to see what we can. Pete and I have talked about it over the weekend. We're not trying to exclude anybody. We're trying to be fair. And so I never want to promise something I can't deliver on. But I will say this, within the week, we would hope to have some resolution, if there is one possible, for those folks. So we'll work with them. And my suggestion is they keep in touch with us and we'll see what we can do.
Delaney Hampson has said that in the event that he doesn't buy a season ticket for next season, will there be a scheme in place for loyal supporters who come to many games and buy individually, and perhaps a loyalty points scheme whereby their kind of constant support of the club might be rewarded in that way?
Yeah. Again, Delaney, we had envisioned more of a subscription plan where loyalty and the like would be in place. There will be some things that are out there. It's early days, even though this, we're in that unique thing. We haven't finished this season. Next season may start in as little as 8 weeks. So we're trying to figure all that out, but we'll come up with something. We recognize the value of loyal fans. We want to encourage our fans who don't buy season tickets to feel as though they are valued, and we will make it, we'll find something to make it appropriate.
I'll come on to Pete Brown's questions because there were some quite direct questions going back to what you kind of started with, Rob, about the consultation with the trust and about consultation, really about, when did the trust find out? Did that consultation take place? And can you give assurances that, in future, that the trust will be continually consulted about things that really affect the heart of the fan base?
We did not go to the trust with this plan in advance. We did not explicate it in any minute detail to the trust members who serve on the board. It is something that was staff-driven at my request. When I read it and approved it, I authorized it to go out. After it went out, I heard from both Trevor and David Cook asking that in the future I would consult with them more thoroughly on these things. I agreed that I would attempt to do so. I told them I wish I had talked to them in advance, although it's funny. We meet more than any board of directors I've ever been on. We meet literally once a week, and we discuss virtually everything about the club. And this one slipped through our fingers, not because of any intention, but because I think I was excited at the idea of getting it out and felt like everybody knew we had to increase our prices, and that from my perspective, it was not something of consultation as to the nuances of the plan. But, we pride ourselves on being able to communicate. I could have done a better job of communicating. I will attempt to do a better job. And when he asked about a commitment, my commitment is to attempt. We're running this as a business. And there are going to be, I think, when you look at some of the things that has happened in the past, it's been run as a committee running a charity, and that's why you end up in the trouble you're in. I'm excited, and I got to say this whole brouhaha over the tickets has sort of taken the edge off of the excitement of let's get about it, and that's why I wanted to have this discussion today. I feel as though working together with the trust, we have produced something that's truly magical. It's unique in English football. It has a chance of really succeeding, but it's not the same as it used to be. And I can't sugarcoat that. So I think everybody who has met me, met Missy, met Pete, knows we're very accessible people. And we will listen, as I say, with the one caveat: if it is an ad hominem, we don't listen in to it. So there you go.
I'm going to come to a question here only because Andy's asked the question a couple of times. I think he's eager for it to be asked, and I don't want to miss it out. If the terrace were to be closed, is there a contingency in place for moving those supporters? And does it speed up the eventual seating of the terrace, which would be compulsory within 3 years in the championship?
I was going to say, Andy, what could speed up the seating in the terrace most assuredly is the result on July 13th. which we all hope for. The contingency if the Terrace remains closed, I don't have one. We'll work with David Cook. We'll work with the safety officials to see. Look, the Terrace is a fundamental part of our football. It's one of the reasons I objected to having football behind closed doors, because I love the way our Terrace reacts and the visitors' side reacts and the Frank Adams stand gets excited. Even the guys in the Beach Dean stand will get excited. And all of that makes a difference in the game. But I don't want to say that we know what's going to happen with the Terrace until we get further definition from the government.
A couple more questions on email. One was from Malcolm Brightman about both the increase in price for senior tickets and also the increase in the age bracket from 60 to 65. I will just caveat that before you answer, Rob, is to say adult category does have the opportunity to retain the senior price. So although for new purchasers, it would be now 65 plus would be a senior. If you're affected by that, you will remain a senior if you're renewing your season ticket. But what was the thinking, Rob, from your perspective in that? Well, I suppose both the price increase, but also the age increase.
I think part of my thinking is I'm used to being a senior and in effect say, oh, no, not anymore. That's why we've grandfathered these folks in. But a 62-year-old who has not previously been under the senior program should be able to pay the full price. We have got to generate $600,000 to £700,000 in order to have this club be financially sustainable. And that's a small part of it. I hate to do it. You know, there are those who think that we should just let everybody in free and hope for the best. That won't work.
Question, there's a long email from Lee Standing, and I can't read it all out. I'm going to forward it on to you, Rob, because there's a message in there for you also. But one is about, we talked about how the club felt 7 games free for season tickets was perhaps too many. That's 30% of the season that was getting free compared to buying individual tickets. Lee's making a point. He doesn't feel that's unreasonable. That's kind of one of the benefits of being a season ticket holder. The club have said now that we're reducing that number. What, you know, in your eyes, what is the overarching benefit of being a season ticket holder if the number of games that you're getting for free isn't overly significant?
Well, first we can quibble about what's significant. If you're saving 4 tickets and you're going to every game, to me that's significant. Secondly, you have your assigned seat. You know where you're going to sit. You know where your buddies are going to sit. You know where your family is going to sit. That's significant. Third, there are benefits that are rolled out for season ticket holders that others don't get, particularly this year, in terms of the probable access to away games and the like. During the course of the year, we will be having more value. Remember this, always, 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 and Matt, you know this because I preach it all the time. We are trying to find more value to give to the fan for the same price. So, so to me, it was a reasonable deal. 4 tickets is 20% basically of the season. That's a pretty healthy number. I almost use the word discount, but I'm afraid Missy would hear me use it, and there would be unholy hell to pay. But it's a reasonable advantage. The same seat is a reasonable advantage. The opportunity to participate at a different level than the occasional seat ticket purchaser is a real advantage.
The last question on email from Michael Gillett, it kind of comes back to what you were saying earlier about the increase in season ticket price is going to be met with a response of, well, if I'm paying more, I want a better experience. And you've talked about the fibre infrastructure. Michael makes the point that as a season ticket holder in the Frank Adams stand, the food service in the kiosks was not up to the standard that he would expect paying the top price seat in the stadium. Are you able to give assurances that the next season, when fans are paying more money than they did this season, they're going to receive that better experience?
I can tell him that we have been working at it and we expect it. And we shouldn't make light of this fiber. This fiber will, for him, allow him to do things sitting in his seat he's never done before in terms of connectivity, including ordering food and drink. We brought in Tom Keteridge's pies by way of an example. we are just getting our foot in. I had the pleasure and the opportunity to own this club for 10 days before it was shut down. So up until now, all we could do is make suggestions, advice, and the club, and the trust, to its credit, took virtually all of our suggestions. But now we can get in. We're looking at doing some rehabbing of the stadium itself, which will make it a more pleasant experience. And I've already talked about some of the things that Matt, you're very integral in with the backside of the Frank Adams upper deck.
Just going to try and come to some questions in the comments. It's been derailed by a healthy debate going on by some of our fans, so it's hard to pick out the authentic questions. One was from Stephen White about the opportunity for iFollow passes for season ticket holders that can't get to games. That's currently in place in the Championship, so all Championship clubs' season ticket holders have been issued with complimentary iFollow passes. We're working on the basis the same would apply at the start of next season in the event that season ticket holders can't get to games. Should that change, then if it's ultimately not feasible, then obviously the club has said it will offer the pro rata rebate or the voucher. And if it is possible, then obviously that's something we will look to make available for as many people
as possible.
And
Matt, you know this, that's nothing we can negotiate directly. That's sort of a league-driven negotiation that we're following on. So.
And I'm just trying to scroll back. If anybody's got any burning questions, please drop them in now, just so they come to our most recent comments, because as I say, I don't want to overlook any questions, but there's been so many comments. A question from Paul Stevens, actually. Will there be an opportunity for people to become a new season ticket holder if more seats are available and there's insufficient renewals? So at the moment, the window until the 1st of July is for existing season ticket holders to renew. Rob, I think your statement on the Thursday night said we're only going to sell 2,448 season tickets. That's the number from last season. Naturally, if some fans choose not to renew, that would enable a period of general sale whereby fans can buy. Is that right?
Yeah. Here's how I would see it working. First, we want to give our present season ticket holders every opportunity. Then we will reach out to people who have been season ticket holders in the past several years who may not have renewed. But then we're going to be assiduously looking for new season ticket holders. Let me tell you that in years past, we have been content to have an average attendance of 5,000, 5,200 people. We're going to be driving towards a season ticket goal of around 3,500 to 4,000, regardless of league. We expect next year to have an attendance of in excess of 7,000, regardless of which league. We're going to be very aggressive in trying to get new fans, new season ticket holders into the doors, because that is the lifeblood of the club. We think that we can bring a better experience to them. They can realize it's a heck of a lot more fun. It's a heck of a lot easier, and it's certainly a lot less expensive than traveling into London to go watch one of the clubs there at 4 times the price by the time you add up the day.
Sue, a quick question about will season tickets still be available as a plastic card? Yes, that will be an option. Naturally, as years go by, more and more people are migrating to smartphones, and you can pay for things on your smartphone without even carrying credit cards now. But yeah, we're certainly conscious of every supporter. Those that maybe aren't so digitally minded, there will be plastic cards available, and obviously there'll be more details once we're ready.
Matt, along that line, and I know I'm proselytizing on the fiber, but we're trying to get to be a touchless sort of environment. And so that you'll be able to pay for things, you'll be able to get yourself in on your phone and the like, more and more. But we will accommodate those folks like myself who still have trouble dealing with all of
that. Right, I'm just going to see some final questions that's come in. What is happening for away fans? That's a question. I don't know whether you mean at Adams Park or our fans going to away games. There will be the same restrictions, I guess, whether you're a home or away fan. Sean, coming back about carers tickets, will there be a charge for a carers ticket? As I say, just get in touch with the ticket office. I know there have been direct conversations going on about carers today. And will the Frank Adams roof be fixed? That question's come back 2 or 3 times. I know that the trust have made fans aware that's that's a priority that's coming up, and obviously an expensive one in terms of the stadium infrastructure.
I'm only smiling because our plan was to work on it this summer. And a lot of, what's the old adage? Man plans, God laughs. And so here we are. We expect to take care of it. Our goal was to do it as part of a fundamental redo of a lot of the stadium. It may be that we have to do it as a one-off.
We're coming up to an hour, and I think we've got to the bottom of the questions that came in on email. And as far as I can see, there's some other questions that have come up, and we're getting into technicalities about iFollow now and longer-term investment from Rob. And as we've said, we'll do a separate session. We just want to keep it on season tickets for now. A question here from Francis, which I think is a fair question. Do you think that the launch day for season tickets could have been better managed, considering the amount of feedback that's come out on social media?
I'm tempted to say yes, because of the feedback on social media. And then I look at the fact that it's the most successful launch we've had in anybody's memory and say, how much more successful could it have been? Did we hurt some feelings? Probably. Do I wish I had not? Yes. Do I think it had to be done now? Yes. Remember where we are. We are 2 months away from probably starting a new season. In years past, this would have been done in March. We had to make our move now. And so that's where we are. I'm going to talk with the trust. I've talked to Trevor and David. They understand. I wish I had talked to them more, but I'm not going to beat myself up about it. We're doing the best we can. I made some mistakes. I watch the football games. Our best players occasionally make a mistake. That doesn't mean they don't get back up and try harder, that they don't learn from it, and that's where we are. We're going to learn from this. Hopefully we can roll out our products in the future with a little better social media management.
Absolutely. Well, I think that is almost bang on the hour. And Rob, thank you for your time. Thank you to everyone that's been watching and submitting questions. There are some that we can come back to directly on email. Any further questions, look, email tickets@wwfc.com. If you didn't get your renewal email, please do chase that up. You will get sent your renewal details. The guys are working as fast as they can. They were in before 9. They were here till 8:30, I think, with pizzas and beers for subsistence on Friday night, just to get through as many as they could. Somebody's made the point there. There's pretty much 6 people working in the club at the moment. That's not a sob story. Everybody's working as hard as they can, and we will get through. It's fantastic to see the demand. We'd be worried if the phones weren't ringing and the emails weren't coming in and tickets weren't being sold. So I think that's a huge positive, and it just shows the interest that there is in Wycombe Wanderers season 2020-21, whatever that might look like. Rob, anything from you before we go?
No, I just want to thank everybody. I really do. And look, this feedback is important to us. We learn from this, and we're going to get better and better. We see ourselves, Gareth and I kid each other all the time. My job is to try and make us as good off the pitch as he is trying to make us on the pitch. I think he was a little jealous this week. We finally did something where we're doing some good things, and we learn from his example. When we make a mistake, we get better, and we learn from the mistake, and that's what we're going to do. I would be remiss if I didn't end it this way. These are going to be the most exciting 3 weeks of football ever. You must have a belief in your heart as to how this is going to end up, because we're all going to want to read Neil Harmon's book with that fantastic ending. So thank you, Matt, very much. Thanks, everybody who tuned in. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming. We will respond.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll catch you again soon. Take care.